Good morning, Bachelor Nation. Thank you so much for joining us here on Roses and Rosé Live. I'm Lauren Zima, joined by Katie Krause.
Thanks for having me.
Katie, I had to have you because Katie Krause is a woman with an opinion.
Oh, yeah.
And we have just learned this morning our new Bachelor announced on Good Morning America. Spoiler alert, although you probably know by now, everybody, it is, should we say it together, 3, 2, 1, Colton! So, Katie and I have so much to say about the new Bachelor choice, everybody. Of course, Bachelor Nation has a lot to say. You guys have a lot to say. We want to know your comments, your thoughts, your reactions, opinions, questions. Leave them on ET social platforms. We will get them here on the iPad. And we've got a lot to break down because, wow. First of all, let's just watch this moment where Colton was revealed on Good Morning America just this morning.
I think that's one thing that I took pride in on both seasons, is just being true to who I am. And I think it took all of that to get to where I'm at now and know who I am as a person and know what I want in a life partner.
So that's Colton talking. That's Colton talking about, he was kind of asked, look, here's what we know. Colton was on Bachelorette with Becca Kufrin. He was number 4 on that show. He was just on Bachelor in Paradise. And literally on Monday night, last night, you guys, if you missed it, we watched Colton dump Tia Booth. Yeah. Then this morning, he's revealed on GMA as the new Bachelor, and he was kind of giving his reasoning there on why he is ready to be the Bachelor.
Yeah. The timing makes sense in that Bachelor in Paradise was shot a while ago, so it's not like he actually just broke up with Tia last night. There was a little bit of wiggle room. Do I think he's ready to be the Bachelor? I think is the big question that we all have. I don't. I like Colton, but he's young. He's 26.
Yeah.
Even before The Bachelor, The Bachelorette, we knew that he was dating Allie Reisman. Then he was dating Becca. And even before that, it was Tia. And then again, after Tia.
You're saying basically you don't think
he's been single.
He's not been single long
in the
enough.
past 2 years.
You know what was interesting to me, and I want to play it, is, again, we just saw him break up with Tia last night, and so that would have been in about June of this summer, so just a couple months ago. And here was the reasoning that Colton gave Tia about what she deserves.
I just know what you deserve, and I can't give it to you. That's the worst part about all of it.
Lots of tears.
I have a question for you.
Yes.
If he's not ready to give Tia what she deserves, why is he ready to give someone else what they deserve?
That is my question, Katie Krause. Truly, and that's why I wanted to play that for you guys, because I just needed more from Colton on the reasoning behind that breakup. Like, look, here's the thing, both Colton and Tia, I interviewed Tia after the Bachelor in Paradise tell-all, which taped last week, you guys, and that interview with Tia is up now, or going up right now, literally, at etonline.com, and we're actually gonna play a little piece of it for you in a minute. But I asked Tia about, you know, why, like, the breakup, how she felt about it. And she said, look, we both felt like we tried. It's okay if you tried, you gave it a shot, and you realized we're not right for each other, but what does he mean by I couldn't give her what she deserves?
I feel like, too, there was a point that was missing after it took a while for them to kind of reconcile this season. They got together, and it seemed like rainbows and butterflies. What happened?
I think we missed some stuff. I don't know. It was weird, didn't it? It felt like they were the struggle. Then they're together, and then all of a sudden he's like, nope, it's not working. I needed to know why it wasn't working.
Do you think he maybe had these conversations that he could potentially be the Bachelor even back then?
I think that after Bachelorette finishes taping, or even close to, as it's airing, I think those conversations are being had. So that's potentially possible, 100%. It's, a lot of comments coming in from you guys. Dress Down Shan wants to know, do you think Colton is emotionally ready to be the Bachelor? Well, that's what we're talking through.
Do you think he is?
Baliel, I'm sorry about your name, says, personally don't think Colton is the best choice for the Bachelor this season, but the hate he's getting about being undecided seems unfair. There was a lot of pressure to date Tia. Well, I will say, I think him and Tia were blown out of proportion because they went on a couple dates, and then he went on Bachelorette, and it was like, I think they just both needed to cross off or get into that relationship in their minds, you know?
But I do feel like maybe producers thought there was so much interest, but as I watched it this season, I almost felt like it was too much Colton and Tia at the beginning. I was like, why does she get all these date cards? And there's people there that had never gone on a date, still to this day have not gotten a date card, and there was just so much, I guess you're right, pressure might be the right word. I don't know that that's an excuse.
It's interesting, isn't it? I mean, what we know is he's 26.
Yeah.
He's a virgin. He runs a charity. We know he loves dogs. So this is what we know about Colton. And you brought up such a good point, Katie, kind of looking at the ages of previous bachelors, because Ben Higgins was the youngest bachelor ever. He was 26. So Colton is at that same age. A lot of you guys are commenting right now saying DK3N70 says maybe ABC could put Blake or Jason in on night 1 and make the girls choose like they did for Caitlyn's season. Chris Harrison has told me they will never do that again. And then Rachel said, oh my God, what about Blake? So looking at the ages of Blake and Jason, who were the 2 runners-up, they're both like 28, 29.
Right.
How much do you think age plays into this?
I honestly think it comes down to if you are totally 100% ready, open, willing. I don't know that age is the absolute end-all, be-all. Do I think 26 is young? I do. I do think that guys do mature a little bit slower than women. That's been proven.
On this show, for sure.
Yeah, and Jason and Blake, I mean, they're what, 28, 29, so that's 2-3 year age difference. Even watching them on The Bachelorette, they seem a little bit more there, like ready to find a wife. I mean, with Colton, is he ready?
What's interesting to me is he said on GMA, we didn't play this part for you guys, but he said he's ready to get engaged and married shortly after.
Yeah.
So Colton is sitting here saying, and I didn't need him to say that.
Yeah.
I want to say, I love this show. I love this franchise. I don't need to hear that people are ready to get married anymore. And here's why. When was the last time we really had like a solid out of Bachelor, Bachelorette wedding happen? Maybe Sean and Catherine, Caitlyn and Sean, Caitlyn Bristow, Sean Booth
and
are
they're
engaged but not married.
Still not married.
Ben Higgins and Lauren Bushnell broke up. Nick Viall and Vanessa broke up. Ari and Lauren are engaged. But the thing is, I really look at it at this point as you're going on the show to potentially find love. The wedding doesn't matter that much to me as a fan anymore. You know, like I don't need him to say that. And it almost feels like it does put this pressure on that makes things potentially turn false at the end. Clarissa says 26 is too young. Katie, take us through a couple of these for me.
Colton and Tia both ended 4th in their seasons and were both together in Bachelor in Paradise, so same journeys. Does that mean Tia still can be the Bachelorette?
Priya is thinking into next year. Priya.
Do you think that, okay, that's actually a good question. If it were time for a Bachelorette season and the roles were reversed, would Tia be ready to be Bachelorette after this?
Ooh, interesting, Katie Krause. I have to say, I lean more towards Tia being ready. I do.
Yeah.
And they're not that far off in age.
But she seems so much more sure of this relationship.
Yeah.
Which is, say what you will about Tia, I did appreciate her commitment to the cause.
Of wanting a relationship?
Yes, yes.
Allison says, Colton is such a good-looking man, but I was really hoping Jason would be the next Bachelor.
I think a lot of people were.
I agree. And let's actually talk through this a little bit, because Jason, 28, 29, I think. It's always hard to tell, guys, the ages that they give us from like when they're on the shows. Jason really killed it at Men Tell All.
Yeah.
You know, he was bringing the emotion. He was saying all the right things, I thought. But if you look at Jason in terms of what kind of TV he would make, again, we said Colton's a virgin. Colton, former football player, handsome guy. Picture that face on a billboard, runs a charity. Jason, great guy, good-looking guy, fun. I don't know if he was, I mean, the storyline for Colton is on another level.
So do you think, I know you actually got some reporting this morning about the
Yes.
decision. And Colton, he does bring the tears. He does bring the drama. I think he's willing to play the game, for lack of a better word. Do you think that really was what was being considered?
Yeah, so we had some ET reporting come in from a source close to production, just basically telling us that, look, yeah, Colton's story was a huge part of this, all these factors. And that, look, at the end of the day, how do you pass up? When is production going to be presented with a 26-year-old virgin? Sean Lowe is a born-again virgin?
Yeah.
How often are they going to come across this, you guys?
Well, that's a good point, though. What do you make of all the Sean Lowe comparisons? Because people are saying he is really similar to Sean Lowe, and aside from Ari, he really is the only successful Bachelor to come out of this franchise.
In terms
He's
of
married,
relationship.
they have kids, him and Catherine. What do you think of those comparisons? Are they fair or are they unfair?
I think it's amazing to me how much this show and kind of our world has changed in the past couple years. Sean Lowe seems like a world of difference and sort of a lifetime ago, even though it wasn't that long ago. How social media has changed the shows. I mean, we were talking about kind of what everybody thinks of Colton's intentions. Like you mentioned, he dated Allie Raceman, famous gymnast before this, Becca, Tia.
I would love to know, not to interrupt you.
Tell me.
I would love to know what Allie thinks of Colton becoming the Bachelor. I think there's a lot to be said in that she said nothing. She said nothing when he went on the Bachelorette. Nothing now that he's been the Bachelor. And I think that silence speaks volumes.
It's interesting. I asked Colton at Men Tell All if they'd spoken, and he said they haven't talked since they broke up. So I asked Colton too about because look, a lot of people were questioning his intentions. Tia's best friend Raven came at Colton hard. So at the Men Tell All taping, Bachelorette Men Tell All, I asked him, what do you have to say to the haters? Here's what Colton said.
You know, anybody who questions intentions of going on the show, I think for me, you know, I put myself out there. I was true to who I was, and there was no plotting, there was no scheming. It was just me going on a show, and I feel like it was so good for me to do this. So I'm happy with how everything played out, and I love everybody.
Interesting that he told you, true to who I was. The same thing that he said this morning on GMA, but Lauren got the scoop first.
Oh, well, thank you. I thought you were thank you. He's sticking to that messaging.
That narrative,
Yeah, and I want your take on this, Katie. I just want your reaction because you haven't heard it yet. So I mentioned the interview with Tia from the Bachelor in Paradise tell-all taping last week. I asked Tia if she thinks Colton is ready because at that point we didn't know, but I said, if Colton is the Bachelor, do you think he's ready for that? Here's what Tia Booth had to say.
Excited.
I mean, it was just, when did we film that, June? I mean, it was just about 2 months ago that I was telling him that he really needs to figure himself out before he can fully be with someone else. So if there's a chance that Colton is the Bachelor, I would hope that he is fully ready for that experience, knowing that he wants to be engaged at the end of it.
Do you think he's ready?
But I'll tell you one thing.
I vote Jason for Bachelor.
So you don't think Colton's ready?
We haven't really had those conversations since Paradise. Obviously, it's been
You guys have
on
been
a friendly
talking every
level.
day.
I'm
sure they're very interested.
I don't know that he's ready.
Interesting.
I don't.
Me neither, Tia.
It's interesting.
Question for you. Between the Bachelorette and Bachelor in Paradise, how much time is there? Is it 2 months?
Yeah, well, Bachelorette finishes filming probably around March, and then Paradise films in about June. So a couple months in there.
Okay. So now it's been about 2 months. It'll be 3 months probably before The Bachelor starts filming. The same amount of time window. Do you think that's enough time for him to get to ready himself?
Here's what I'll say. What are these people doing in that downtime? The answer is not a whole lot. Like, they're focused on reflecting on their time on the show. Annalise from Bachelor in Paradise, I interviewed her recently, and she told me between going on Bachelor in Paradise, she went to therapy a bunch. So I do think you dig into yourself, and these shows, you guys, really make you reflect on who you are. You don't have your phone, the news, TV, anything. All you're doing is thinking about how you are in relationships all day. So do I think that Colton could have done a lot of reflecting? Yes. I think that it is telling, though, that Tia said that. But we should note, she did Instagram today. If you can check that out on her Instagram. And she said, look, it didn't work out. I wish you the best. What we do know is that Tia and Colton are very friendly at this point. They're texting a lot. But she said she didn't think he's ready, and she was voting Jason for Bachelor.
Right. Interesting. I know that they've said, and he said, she will not appear on his season of The Bachelor. Do you think that that will uphold?
She did say that she tweeted she would definitely not be a contestant, which is such a good idea. We're all done with the Colton and Tia love story.
It's been played out. It's done.
Been seen. Could she appear just like Becca came on Paradise?
Yeah.
I think so, you guys.
Yeah.
I think so.
Okay.
I want to get into as well, of course, so many of you guys are saying, Alexi says that enough with the age thing, Jason would have been so boring. Interesting.
What about Blake? Does anybody out there like Blake? I'm a big Blake fan.
Yes, because Blake and Jason, definitely producers had spoken to them about the possibility of being Bachelor. I know Blake was a front runner for quite a while. I think it started to come down to Colton and Jason at the end because they both really, again, did a great job, for lack of a better term, at Men Tell All. Let's look at their Instagrams. Katie, do you want to take us through Blake Instagramming first?
Yes. So what I think is interesting about what Blake said, I love this picture. I love how he also included Jason in it. It's another reason why I love Blake. But I think what he said is interesting in that he's not going to change the man that he is to become the Bachelor. that's the line where I'm like, what does that mean? What is he saying right here? What do you think of that?
I know. Well, it's Blake and Jason both congratulating Colton on becoming Bachelor, saying some nice messages. And yeah, like you said, Blake said he wouldn't change the man who he was. We don't always know about all the behind-the-scenes talks. Like sometimes the Bachelor is offered to someone and they're like, look, no, I don't want to go down this road. I think that Blake saying that makes me think he would have been a really good Bachelor.
I think so too, because that's a little bit of sass right there.
I know.
In a very, tied up with a ribbon and a bow. So.
Yeah. Kelly Dunn says she was the biggest Blake fan. Debbie says, I love Blake, but I don't think he's ready. Mason says justice for Blake. I will say, last season, it really felt like everybody wanted Peter Krause, right?
I still want Peter Krause.
Chris
Not just because we have the same last name.
Which would have been. I asked Chris Harrison this. He told me that Peter Krause was not offered the Bachelor this season. So they weren't, I don't know if they're going to go down that road, you guys, as much as we'd love it. But that very much felt like people were so mad it wasn't Peter. I think it feels different this season. I mean, I don't think people are feeling like, oh, it was really going to be this one guy, and now we're disappointed it's Colton. You know?
I think that's why I am disappointed, is because there were so many great picks that I would have been happy with, and with guys who maybe were just a smidge older and who I felt were a little bit more ready. I think even Ben Higgins would have been a good choice. I think Jason would have been a great choice. I think Blake would have been the ultimate choice. I still think Peter Krause could have been a good Bachelor. So many options, and that's why I'm like, really?
Colleen says, I did not want Blake because I do not think he would be able to go through it emotionally again. Totally team Jason, though, and I feel Colton tarnished his reputation with Paradise. Yeah. Let's go through. I pulled a couple tweets from you guys from Bachelor Nation. So tweet number 1 here. Thanks for giving us the Bachelor absolutely nobody wanted, with a boo shot from the Olympics there. Tweet number 2. First, Ari, now Colton, it's like the producers don't even want us to watch The Bachelor anymore.
It's interesting that all these people are in agreement with us. Like, it's a little bit off, the decision.
Here's the, when I brought up the Ari thing, I should say, does this feel a little bit off? Yes, but this didn't feel like a season where everybody would have been behind one choice. Like,
correct.
It's like, it's half a dozen one the other. You know, you're saying, look, I'm frustrated because I think these other guys would have been great, but also, if Jason had been the Bachelor, there are Colton fans out there. There are Blake fans out there. Like, everybody wouldn't have been happy with that, or if Blake and all of that. So, there didn't seem a clear choice to me, and I understand it. I want to read tweet number 3 here, because this one was very well thought out and interesting to me. She says, Dear producers of The Bachelor, your audience here, a 30-year-old woman with nothing better to do on a Monday night, we are not interested in a 26-year-old virgin with a self-named charity and no job. Whoa, this ego-driven Ken doll reflects our worst online dates as opposed to an actual fantasy. Ooh. What I wanted to call out there, aside from the Ken doll thing, was an actual fantasy. This is interesting to me, you guys, because on the one hand, the show is fantastical, and it's a show. And that's why I think Colton, as a virgin, former football player, good-looking, charity-starting guy, is quite a story. On the other hand, how much as a viewer at this point are you wanting to watch this guy and think, oh, I want this guy. I could see myself with this guy.
I think a lot. And if you look at their followings on social media, that's why all these women are constantly commenting. I saw today, I think it was actually on Jason's Instagram, it was a mom saying, I want you to meet my daughter. And I think people are looking at these men as these perfect ideals of who they want to end up with or want their daughters to end up with. And I think it's true. Like, Colton doesn't exactly have a full-time job. He don't
have a full-time gig.
Young. He hasn't really worked on himself in the past 2 years. And maybe he has. I don't want to say he hasn't, but he hasn't really had a long period of time where he's been single and focused 100% on himself. So for me, like, I would never want to date somebody like Colton, and maybe that's why I'm so upset by the choice. So I think that's a fair comment.
It's interesting. I think the job thing is interesting because Jason probably had like one of the more legit jobs of a Bachelorette contestant we've seen in a while. He's a banker. I think he even said on Ben Higgins and Ashley I's podcast that he spent a lot of time really focused on his career, and that's why he felt he'd been single, which we didn't totally see that narrative come out on the show. But he's a successful guy, and you know, a lot of the time we see, like, I don't know, jobs that maybe don't make all the most sense.
Influencer. But I think that's why people are also questioning his authenticity, is that we do see people come on the show to up their social media followings, and is that what he's hoping to get out of this? He's almost at 1 million followers. You can monetize that. Is that what he's Like, what's the end goal for Colton?
For Colton. Oh, what's the end goal for Colton?
Yeah.
Please tell us what you think, guys. We want to know. Hannah says, honestly interested to see if Colton will be able to break up with any of these girls. Scares me because he has a lot of growth to do. Well, he broke up with Tia on Paradise last night. We did see that.
Untriggered, though. We're still unclear on what triggered that.
We're still unclear. So here's the thing, you guys. Again, I do think no matter what, this was not going to be a perfect decision, and people were going to be up in arms anyway. Show creator Mike Fleiss tweeted this morning. He said, "We hear you, Bachelor Nation." I don't know what that means. What are they going to do with what they're hearing?
My favorite part about that tweet is looking at the thread of comments that came underneath it. Why do you think he tweeted that?
I guess he wants us to feel heard. I don't look. Mike Fleiss is hilarious on Twitter. He says some off-the-wall stuff that it doesn't always. I mean, he's a lot of the times being facetious, guys. So I don't know. I want to know more from him on this one. What does "we hear you" mean? I think that these decisions, you guys, can sometimes be so last minute. I remember a couple years ago, Luke Pell, we interviewed him, and he told us that he was about to get on the plane to go to GMA to make the announcement. And at that point, he was told that he was not going to be the Bachelor. So these decisions can be really last minute and really intense and really change depending on fan reaction. In this case, some spoilers had come out. There was some fan reaction already. But how much do you think that Twitter reaction reflects the audience's reaction, and truly?
Well, we were talking about this earlier, and I do think Twitter is a small percentage of Bachelor viewership. But I also think, so this morning, my mom is in her 60s. My sister is 27. We had a group chat going, and my sister said, "I can't believe Colton is the Bachelor. I don't want to watch." And then my mom, in her 60s, said, "Same, yuck." So I do think this isn't an overall choice that everybody had as their first choice. No matter how you cut it, no matter if it's on Twitter, no matter if it's, just TV viewership ratings, I think overall people would have been happy with a few other people before Colton.
I have to say I didn't have a first choice in this one. I really didn't. I would have been happy and I would have been on board with Blake, Jason, or Colton. It's interesting. Our moms are our gauge, you guys. They are. I was at this event last week, and somebody had brought their mom to the event, and I was like, "Yeah, I do a lot of Bachelor reporting," and she told me, "Gosh, I thought Becca Kufrin was the best Bachelorette in the history of the franchise."
I loved Becca.
But what was interesting to me is I wouldn't say she's the best in the history. And I just thought, man, this woman, she's not on Twitter. She's not tweeting her opinions, but she watches the show and she has them. So I think the producers also really have to gauge, you guys, where they really feel like they're getting the true pulse of Bachelor Nation. And it's tough for them. It's a tough job.
Where the good storytelling is.
Yes.
I do think no matter what, people are going to continue watching. I do think people in January, we're going to have Colton on our screens. We're all going to be here talking about it. And that's never going to change.
Sabrina is, I think, making a call back to Peter Krause here. She says, "It's one thing to write your desire to be the Bachelor in a yearbook," which Peter said, "but it is a whole other level to go as far as dating Tia and probably pretend not to know her on her season." Lots of you also commenting and saying you want Peter Krause. You guys, I do think the ship, at least for the foreseeable future, hath sailed. And look, if we're kind of getting into why it is, like we said, we got some source reporting this morning. I'm just going to read some quotes for you guys. A source telling ET, "Look, producers knew a lot of fans were into Jason and Blake, but Colton's whole narrative was just too good to pass up. He's a virgin, handsome, a former football player. He runs a charity. He knows how to bring the trauma and tears. He did it over and over on both Bachelorette and Bachelor in Paradise. He's been a good guy to work with. Producers expected some backlash, but that always happens, and they think Colton will make for a good season."
I just want to analyze one line right there before we wrap up. "He knows how to bring the drama and tears and proved that over and over on both Bachelorette and Bachelor in Paradise. And he's been a pretty good guy to work with for them."
Hey, look, you guys, at the end, we got to remember, this is the TV show, okay? We're all watching it. We got the commercials. You do have to think about who do you want to spend about 40 hours a day with. Not that there's that many hours in a day, but this is somebody that they work with. Siban, I'm sorry if I'm not saying your name right, says, "How is Colton going to handle multiple women for the fantasy suite?"
And that I do think is interesting. I do think it'll be nice to see how that plays out, and I do respect Colton for his morals. I think that's my favorite thing about him, is that he really has waited and he has been open about it, and it's been an popular and I think hard to talk about topic for him. And so I am here for that, and I do think back to Sean Lowe and how he was a born-again virgin. And I do think there's something to be said about having good morals. So for that, I'm going to say, yay, Colton.
Yes, you're like, I'm hesitantly yes.
Yeah.
But I have to say, it's maybe been passed over how difficult that had to be for him.
I can't imagine. And even to be, like he said, in the locker room and having to talk about this with guys.
And to talk about that on Bachelorette, then to talk about it again on Men Tell All, to get the backlash that he did online. Him being on the show, he told me, was the catalyst of him admitting that to the first time, admitting that he'd been lying about being a virgin to friends, to family, to former teammates. Like, so also going back and having to tell them your truth. Like, that, it's big. And he went through a lot with that.
Is he ready to potentially lose his virginity while on The Bachelor?
It's a good question.
Is a good question.
Actually, I think it's the perfect thing to end on, you guys, and we have one last little bit to play. What can we expect from here? Colton is our new Bachelor. I mean, we think they've never changed their minds publicly before. So I had asked Colton at Men Tell All, what would it take for him to lose his virginity? What is he looking for in that woman? Here's what he had to say.
You know, I'm waiting for the right heart, and let me explain that, because it sounds a little corny, it sounds a little cheesy. I'm waiting for somebody to match my intensity, someone that's going to be into me as much as I'm into them, somebody that I'm so madly in love with, and that I could share that special moment with. That's what I'm waiting for, and that's what I'm looking forward to.
Match his intensity.
Colton's intense, guys. He is intense.
Yeah.
So Colton Underwood is our new Bachelor, everybody. Of course, we still have a couple more episodes of Paradise to watch, but we're going to keep on rolling on the Bachelor train.
We are. I'm actually excited to see how the other couples on Bachelor in Paradise play out. I love Astrid and Kevin so much.
Yes. Okay, so everybody, make sure to follow ET on Twitter, on Instagram, and everything. And we are going to have tons of new reporting and more insight on Bachelor for you. Follow Miss Katie Krause.
And Lauren.
She has a lot to say always. Oh, thank you so much. Katie, thank you for doing this with me.
Thanks for having me. That was fun.
I know. We're going to keep going on with the group text and keep sending us your thoughts, you guys. There's so much more to say, and I'm sure we didn't get to everybody's as much as we would have liked to. So thanks for joining us. There will be a new episode of Roses and Rosé up tomorrow morning.
Yes, my
recapping
favorite
Bachelor in
show.
Paradise. Oh my God, thank you. Have a great day, everybody.
Bye, guys.